Hi, today I'm going to do a little work on the Honda Pilot. I just did the radiator in this about a week ago, put a brand new radiator in it, and that solved the coolant leak. And we had just had the mechanic actually balance one of the rear wheels, and what else did he do? But there was one item on the list of things we wanted to get addressed, which he wasn't able to do. There was a mystery noise. Now, we took our mechanic with us on a test drive, my wife and I, to ensure that we were able to make sure he heard the noise. And there was actually a couple of noises. One of the noises was a problem with the wheel. He ended up fixing that. There was a clunking noise. Ended up being a sway bar link was broken. So he fixed that. But then there was a strange noise that we were only able to make it do like once or twice during the test drive under very specific conditions. And he was unable to help us with that, because although he heard the noise on the test drive, later when we dropped the car off for the appointment, they were unable to determine what the cause of that noise was at the time. A few days later, my wife suggested that I take a drive with her to see if I can figure out where the noise is coming from and try and isolate it, because she said it seemed like she was hearing it more often now. So we took it for a drive, and then by playing around with certain braking conditions, certain turning conditions, I was able to get the noise to pretty much happen at will. The key was I had to drive the car forward slowly, cut the wheel, full left turn, stop, keep the wheel turned, put the car in reverse, and back up and give it a little bit of pedal so it kind of backed up a little quickly. And it would make this very distinct noise. I was then able to bring the car back to the mechanic, recreate the noise right in front of him in the parking lot. We noticed a couple of things about the noise. We both agreed that the noise certainly seemed to be emanating from the rear wheel area here. Before I brought it back to him, because I was so sure that it was coming from the rear wheel area here, and because I thought that I may had forgotten to install the high temperature synthetic grease on the backs of the ceramic pads when I put new brakes in this car, my thought was that that's where the noise was coming from. So I actually took the brakes apart, made sure that there was grease on all of the metal contact points that are supposed to have grease, put it all back together, and it did the same exact noise, no change at all. So I realized that wasn't it. I also had tried partially engaging the emergency brake. That didn't make a difference. So that's when I brought it back to him and said, look, here's the noise. I'm going to show you the noise. He came out. He agreed with me that it sounded like it was coming from there. I also let him know that the noise, I could feel the vibration as it made the noise by lightly touching the body of the vehicle. So that was kind of interesting. So then he said, he said, we haven't seen it in the Hondas, but he said on the Toyotas, there is I think he called it a viscous coupling in the rear differential. So there's a couple of clutch packs apparently back there, and what they do is they kind of act like a limited slip differential. So when you're making a turn, this wheel will rotate slower than the other wheel. So it's not a solid axle going all the way through, which is, that's how cars have been made like that for years. But this uses a special type of coupling. And he said on the Toyotas, there was a problem where if the fluid in the rear differential became contaminated, that you could get a noise and a shudder or vibration out of those couplings. He said typically it would only happen in a turn. The only thing he wasn't kind of sure about was it was kind of unusual that it doesn't seem to want to do it on a right turn and only wants to do it on a left turn. So it only seems to be the coupling on this side that's making the noise. Now the mileage on this vehicle's low. All right, I got a mag mount so I can kind of put the GoPro right on the tire. So this is actually, we're going to be looking at it upside down, but hopefully the GoPro will pick up the noise. Now I'll show you how I have to drive to make that noise happen. I have to keep the wheel cut left like it is now and go forward and backward. So when my mechanic was talking about that thing with the Toyotas, he says, you know what? He said, come on in the office. And he went online, and he subscribes, I believe, probably to this service. Apparently it's called shopkey.pro. And I think it just has all sorts of technical service bulletins and known issues and things like that. And he found this for the 2007 Honda Pilots, and apparently this is also for the this is for the 2003 to 2009 Pilot and the 2006 to 2009 Ridgeline category clutch transmission differential. And it says the complaint is noise and judder from the rear when turning. It says probable cause, the VTM-4 differential fluid is contaminated by clutch wear, condensation, or both. This causes the VTM-4 differential clutches to make noise and to judder when turning. And then it talks about, there's basically an explanation here, and it talks about that if the fluid wasn't changed at the normal service interval, or if it is contaminated, that the corrective action is to replace the fluid, but they actually recommend that you replace the fluid and flush the system. So the way that you do that is you drain out the contaminated fluid, you fill the system with new fluid, you drive it a little bit, and then you drain it again and refill a second time. So it actually talks about repair procedure. It talks about the required items, and it actually, right here it talks about parts information. It says you're going to need a drain plug washer 18 millimeter, drain plug washer 20 millimeter. This is for the because there's a fill plug and a drain plug, and then the fluid, the VTM-4 differential fluid, 5.6 quarts required. Well, I looked at the capacity in the owner's manual for the differential, and it's almost exactly half that. So the reason why they're saying you need 5.6 quarts is because they're assuming you're going to drain, refill, and then drain and refill again. So that's why you need 5.6 quarts. Best way to buy this stuff, by the way, is by the gallon, which is 4 quarts. And since 4 quarts isn't going to be enough to do 2, you need to buy 2 gallons of the stuff. And there is, from what I've gathered online, there is no allowable substitute for VTM-4 fluid. Pretty much everybody who asks the question, hey, is there something else we can use instead of this VTM-4 fluid that is Honda because it's expensive? And everybody says, don't use anything else, use the Honda fluid. Now the good news is you can go online and buy from places like Amazon. You can buy for about $30 a gallon, you can buy the fluid. So for like $60 on Amazon you can get it. But oddly enough, I actually found that if you go to Advanced Auto Parts online, they actually have it even a little bit cheaper. You can't walk into your local Advanced Auto Parts store and buy the stuff off the shelf for some reason, but you can order it from Advanced online, and it came in 2 days from Virginia, and it was here. So here it is, Honda Genuine VTM-4 differential fluid. So I'm not sure whether or not this is going to solve the problem or not, but I do know that the differential fluid on this vehicle has never been changed in the past, and there is 85,000 miles on the car, or whatever I just said earlier. So it's due for a change. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to change the fluid once today, and then see if the noise improves or if it gets better after driving a couple days. If it doesn't improve at all after a couple of days, I'm thinking I'm going to pull that rear wheel and the brake rotor, because I did
like I said, I pulled the wheel and I lubed the calipers and all of that stuff, but I didn't pull the rotor off because I'm still not convinced that there isn't some sort of mechanism or something for the parking brake that isn't rubbing something that it shouldn't. So this larger plug up at the top here, this is the fill plug, and this smaller one at the very bottom here is the drain plug. So I'm going to open the fill plug first. The idea is that if you open the fill plug, it's larger, so you can stick your finger in there and you should be able to feel the fluid level. It should be right up to the bottom of this fill plug. And then once I'm going to check the fluid level, just curiosity what it was before I drained it. And then we'll open the drain plug and we'll drain that into a clean container and see if we can't see if it's contaminated. Now, this hasn't been out in quite a while, so I'll tell you right now, it's tight. I'm going to use a breaker bar, 3/8 inch, fits right in that square drive. And I'm going to use a helper bar. Hopefully I'll have just enough clearance to get this thing. Let's try it from the other way. Yeah, maybe this way. Don't know if that loosened up or did it just slip off. Nope, loosened up. Okay. Now, once I've got it loosened up, just use a extension as a, you know what, I'll tell you what, that fluid looks good. That fluid looks damn clean. If it looks pink like Pepto-Bismol, that would indicate contamination from water. So, I mean, it still could be contaminated. It's just not water contaminated. It would have to be contaminated with maybe, you know, worn clutch byproducts, that kind of crap. Well, the level definitely looks good because it's right up to where it should be. Why do I think that this fluid has been changed? All right, let's take this drain plug out. So the problem is that drain plug is seized. So if the car was on the lift, I would have plenty of room to stand underneath it and get a breaker bar on there, put leverage on it. However, since I can't do that, I've got all of my extensions put together. And then I'm going to adapt to a larger drive. So I get all the way up from underneath the car and have plenty of room to put my breaker bar on. Oh, wow, it worked though. Oh, that fluid looks practically new. I don't like that. Got a big old magnet probably on this fill plug, on this drain plug, to collect any nasties from the transmission. I mean differential. All right, I let it drain. Then I cleaned off the magnet on and the drain plug. I installed a new crush washer on the drain plug. I've installed the new drain plug, and now I need to torque the new drain plug. Not the new drain. You need to torque it to 35 foot-pounds, which would be the proper amount of crush on that sealing washer. Again, it's a little bit of a chore to get the room you need to do this. Okay, that's good. Now, Now I have to start refilling it, which is going to be fun because I've got to get the fluid into this hole behind this opening in the frame. Spare tire's kind of in the way, so I'm going to find some way to get that stuff in there. So I have this Atwood fluid transfer pump. It's made to screw onto a quart of outboard, outdrive, final drive oil, and it comes with adapters that screw onto here so that you can pump oil right into the drive, but it works as a transfer pump. I have a larger transfer pump, but what I hate about that is that you end up losing a lot of fluid. Gets wasted in the lines when you're done. So this has got just a little bit of remnants of outboard stern drive oil in there, or whatever, mystery oil. So I'm going to just use this fluid that I drained out, which again actually doesn't look that bad at all. I'm just going to use that to flush this out. There we go. Now I'll be able to use this. I'm wondering whether or not the fluid level in the gallon here has dropped down low enough that I'm not picking up maybe with this thing anymore. Let's see. Oh no, I am. Just wasted fluid. Alright, just gonna keep going. So the memory card filled up, but I did finish filling it up, and once it got to the point where fluid was starting to come back out the upper fill hole, I cleaned it off and installed the fill plug with a new crush washer, torqued it to 35 foot-pounds, and this is what the level on the first quart went down to, and you can see that it's about 1 1/4 quarts left, and this was a gallon, so there was 4 quarts in here, so it used 2 3/4 quarts, which is almost spot on what the owner's manual says it's supposed to use. All right, so I'm getting ready to test it, but I think what I'm going to do first, I'm going to take a short drive, try and get all that new fluid circulating into the clutch. I just took a short drive to get all the fluid moving around in there, and I actually just did the test, and I'm surprised. The noise is completely gone. It actually did seem to solve the problem. My only conundrum now is I don't know whether or not I want to drain that and refill it again, which would be the flush part. Since the problem is solved, I'm tempted to just leave that fluid in there. Not only that, but I actually don't have any another set of crush washers anyways, and those are really supposed to be just a one-shot deal. I know you can reuse them sometimes, but I'd rather not. They're cheap enough to buy at the auto parts store. And the crush washers, you buy them some places, they want $6, $7 a piece for them. You get the generic ones at the auto parts store, they're only a couple bucks. Alright, so let me mount this camera and we'll do the same test as before.
Where did you get that? Where did you get that?
Where did I get what?
That magnet thing.
The magnet?
Yeah.
It's actually an old CB antenna.
Okay, Daddy, you're done. We can play wiffle ball now.
What does it smell?
That's this.
Yeah.
That's blue.
What is
So.
it? A differential fluid?
Differential
Yeah.
fluid, which, so I mean that might be an indication that
It's contaminated.
it looks clean. It looks the same color.
It smells nice.
This smells Yeah, actually smell that.
Yeah, smell. Yeah, smell it.
Smell that.
It doesn't smell like that.
Let me smell that. No, that one smells like.
Oh, it smells horrible.
This one smells like
That one
it's.
smells
This
bad.
What does that smell like?
Bad.
Cow manure. This one smells like cow manure.
Yeah.
This one does. This one doesn't.
Did you?
See, I think this one smells more like cow. I don't know. They both smell bad.
Yeah, you
smell
talking
different,
about
though.
Peter?
They're different smell. That one's a nastier bad smell.
And so that's a wrap. Thanks for watching.